All right, my friends, today we are in the 981 Cayman GT4, a car that a lot of people love, and obviously for good reason. Now, I'm very excited because I have driven a 718 GT4 with the PDK. This is a 981, so the previous generation, stick shift, and I'm excited. This car is stock. The owner has not changed anything. It does have PCCB, that's the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes. It has PASM, it has chrono, and it has these awesome bucket seats. So let's take it for a spin. Now, right off the bat, one thing that the 718 does have over this would be the 4-liter. That is a 4-liter flat six, whereas this is a 3.8 liter. About 380 horsepower, 310 pound-foot of torque. It's not gonna wow you with straight line speed, but it also doesn't feel sluggish at all. Like, this car is plenty quick. And the way the brakes just bite really inspires confidence. I wonder if it actually causes any issues when you're driving around the streets because it's so grabby. It might just take a little bit of getting used to, but this would be, I mean, the PCCBs are a bit too expensive to track on, but obviously they would be amazing on the track. Now, right off the bat, I will say that this car is a little bit more raw than the 718 I drove a month or two back. I feel like that car was a little bit more, maybe refined is the right word, a little bit more, a little softer with the steering feel. But this electronic rack, for an electric rack, this is actually phenomenal. This is a very good rack. And just the balance of this car, like, it feels like an, I mean, this is gonna sound, you know, the way this car rotates around you too is just, you get why people call this thing telepathic, right? It's yeah, this is just so good, so good. You know, one thing that's probably just a reflection more of my noobness, more so than the car itself, is because the brakes are so grabby, I'm not pushing that hard on the brakes. So when I'm trying to heel toe, I really need to dig my heel back down a lot, getting a lot of that ankle dorsiflexion, which is making it a little bit harder for me to have smooth heel toe downshifts. But if you do want the help, you have this this sport button, which will give you rev match downshifts automatically. And so as an example, I'm in third, I'm not gonna touch the gas. It just blips it perfectly for me down to second. Now, I'm gonna drive with sport button off, disabled, the rev match disabled, just because I'm a purist like that, and I feel like I shouldn't be covering up or compensating for any inadequacies I have with driving. So I do like that it is separate though. It is just a single option that's not gonna change the traction control settings, whereas I believe in like the M2, I think, to disable rev matching, you have to also disable traction control. Now, you won't feel that this engine is lacking, but after getting out of the 718, it's not as special as that engine. I mean, this still sounds great, this still pulls hard, not as hard. This thing is just telepathic, man. I mean, there's a reason why every that was with the exhaust valve closed, I guess. Now this is it opened up. Understeer when you're on the gas at corner entry, which is expected, especially if you're going uphill. Really not an issue. Now, I don't feel comfortable pushing this car past 6 or 7 tenths on this road, but when I drove the 718 and I was in a place where I did feel comfortable and I was able to get it to oversteer and kick the tail out a little bit, it was very controllable, very progressive. Now, while I'm not going to be able to get the tail out on this car on this road, it's telling me the same thing. The rest of the driving experience is telling me that it's very communicative, very progressive, very easy to dance with, if you will. It's not going to come out and bite you. Such a beautiful car. The steering is on point, the gear selector's on point, all the inputs are on point. The way the car dances with you, this is 3,000 pounds, slightly over. I think it's around 3,050-ish. And this is a sweet spot in my mind in terms of power to weight. This would be a lot of fun on the track, obviously, a lot of fun. You're not just overly reliant on power and torque to save you, right? You have a beautifully tuned chassis to really get the most out of the car on the corners, which is the most fun part of driving. Going fast in a straight line isn't fun. Taking twists and turns at speed is the fun part, especially on a racetrack where you can really push it to the limit. Man, I gotta get one of these. So I actually wanted to get a 718, and the dealership in Vegas is adding a $25,000 markup. I can't justify that. So right now I'm thinking Lotus Emira, but the way these things drive, I mean, no one knows how the Lotus Emira drives. It hasn't been released yet. But if they can get anywhere to as good as this, I would be so happy. I mean, this car is just... brakes are just amazing. comparing this to the 718, I wish I had driven that 718 a little bit closer to this so it would be more fresh in mind. This does feel more raw. Engine isn't quite as special, obviously, but they're much more similar than different. I'd be happy with either vehicle. If you are going to have a dedicated track weapon, I feel like the rawness of this car might be more conducive to that, whereas if you want something that's a little bit more, slightly more comfortable, not a GT car by any means, but slightly more comfortable and maybe even like a, not a daily, but a semi-daily kind of thing, then maybe the 718 would be a better fit. But I would honestly be super happy with either car. These are just amazing, amazing vehicles. I mean, I feel like every car reviewer who drives one of these just gushes over it, and it's for good reason. Porsche just did such a good job with these cars. And then the question becomes, okay, GT4 RS versus GT4. First of all, it's near impossible to get a GT4 RS, but even if you could, I just love this engagement. I love this this transmission. Thank you. I love this transmission, and I just think it's so much more fun to be rolling your own gears. We got a Subi party. So a lot of people complain about the long gearing in this car, and it's definitely a valid critique. I think that having shorter gearing, I mean, it would make the car a little bit faster. I don't think the car really needs to be much faster though. It's plenty quick, but it would just add a little bit more engagement when you are driving it in the canyons and such to shift it a little bit more frequently, because that's part of the fun when you have such an awesome transmission and gearbox. So incredible, incredible vehicle. I feel like this is, if there wasn't a markup, this would totally be my next vehicle upgrade. It's just so well done. It's so well balanced, and I personally enjoy the driving dynamics of the mid-engine. It's, you know, a lot of people will tell you that it's a more balanced and optimal weight distribution and even polar moment of inertia when it comes to driving dynamics compared to a 911 with the rear engine. And I agree. This car is just so well sorted. I feel like the word balance embodies the nature of this car. Balance and precision, I would say. The way, I mean, every single input is very precise, very high resolution, if you will. And there were times when I was driving where the suspension was a little bit too rough, or rather the road was too rough for the suspension, but with it disengaged, then it was more compliant and it just sat better. Didn't feel as easily disturbed in the corners either. Granted, I've only driven two 911s, and I feel like part of that challenge of taming the rear engine is part of the fun, but this car just feels right. It feels like an extension of yourself, as cheesy as that might sound. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Much love, and I'll see you in that next one.